Chosen one, there's something happening in the spirit that cannot be ignored. A shift, a reckoning, a divine accounting. The season of planting has passed, and now the season of harvest has come. Not just a harvest of blessings, but a harvest of consequence. Because every sin, every act of deceit, every betrayal carried a seed. And that seed didn't die. It went into the ground, and now it's sprouting. The invisible roots have become visible reality. Everything that was done in the dark is being exposed in the light. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it is just. Because God is not mocked. Because the time for hiding has ended, and the time for truth has arrived. Watch this video until the very end. Let the energy of this message rise through your soul. If you feel this truth echoing in your bones, type your warmest wishes and 144 in the comments. We are energizing the universe with collective intention. This is more than a message. This is prophecy in motion, a word traveling through time. And when you write that number, when you speak those wishes, you're not just engaging, you're activating. Now, chosen one, show your light by liking this video and subscribe to the channel. And let's step into this together. You've seen it, haven't you? The ones who wronged others with ease now walking in chaos. The ones who mocked your faith now walking in fear. This is not revenge. This is restoration. This is the moment where the seeds people thought would never sprout begin to break through the soil, where the careless actions that once seemed forgotten now rise as fruit, rotten, undeniable, and unavoidable. You are witnessing divine justice, not through wrath but through harvest, and that harvest will not be delayed. Every choice we make is a seed. Whether we knew it or not, we've been sowing with every word, every action, every decision. And just like natural seeds, they didn't sprout overnight. But now, in this season, the ground is breaking open. The roots are pushing up. The consequences are arriving, for better or for worse. And the ones who thought they got away with it? They're about to realize the seed always remembers, the ground always answers, and God always watches. Chosen one, this is not a moment to gloat. This is not about watching others fall. This is about understanding what you're standing in. You're standing in a time when the spirit world is settling accounts, when the universe is echoing what was once whispered. This is not karma. This is kingdom. This is divine law. The kind that operates beyond logic, beyond the legal system, beyond human eyes. This is the law of seed and harvest. What was sown in sin is now manifesting in chaos. And no one can stop what's been set in motion. You've been protected from a lot. You've been shielded from the fallout of other people's actions. But you were never blind. You saw what was done. You felt the vibrations shift when lies were spoken. You witnessed the schemes. And now you are watching the unraveling, the breakdown, the exposure. Not because you wished it, but because the cycle had to complete. The seed had to sprout. The harvest had to come. And now it is. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't just about the people who hurt you. It's about the people who hurt themselves. Every time someone chose greed, they planted loss. Every time they spread lies, they sowed confusion. Every time they tried to build on manipulation, they seeded collapse. It may have taken months, maybe years, but divine timing always waits until the fruit is undeniable. Until no one can say, it was luck or it was chance. Because when God brings a harvest, There is no question where it came from. Chosen one, you're being shown this not to be consumed by judgment, but to be reminded of grace. You were once a seed planter too, and now you walk in awareness. You sow with purpose. You speak with intention. You move with the understanding that every step carries energy. Every word is a thread in the future. Every silence is a form of agreement. You know now what others ignored, and that awareness is your power. Look around. The harvest is happening everywhere. Some are reaping goodness because they sowed in love, in truth, in obedience. Others are facing collapse because they sowed in pride, in deceit, in rebellion. No one escapes the harvest. No seed goes unaccounted for. The spiritual field does not forget. And this is why now more than ever, you must remain grounded. Stay in alignment. Stay rooted in discernment. Because harvest seasons are loud, and many will cry out, not because they're being punished, but because they're being revealed. The ones who took shortcuts are being slowed down. The ones who climbed on the backs of others are falling off their thrones. The ones who played the game of illusion are now being forced to face truth. And for those who stayed true, for those who kept sowing in tears, joy is coming, clarity is arriving, elevation is here. You are not watching chaos. You are watching justice. You are not witnessing breakdown. You are witnessing alignment. Do not fear what's falling. It was built on lies. Do not mourn what's collapsing. It was never real. Everything being torn down now is a structure of ego, not spirit. A construct of control, not calling. And what you're witnessing is God doing what no man could do, bringing correction without violence, bringing truth without debate, bringing the harvest without warning. This is why you had to wait. This is why you couldn't force your own closure. Because the harvest has its own schedule. It ripens when it's ready. And now it is. You are seeing the results of spiritual agriculture. The soil is no longer silent. The field is speaking. The roots are rising. And the fruit, whether sweet or bitter, is being handed out. And in this moment, chosen one, you must choose your posture. Not pride, not revenge, but clarity, sobriety, reverence. Because the same law that brings down the proud is the same law that raises the humble. And while the world reacts to what's happening, you are being called to understand it, to recognize it for what it is, divine equilibrium. This is not random. This is not accidental. This is sacred return. What was stolen is being restored. What was hidden is being revealed. What was corrupted is being cleared. And you are not just a spectator. You are a part of this wave, a voice in this moment, a vessel for truth. And your awareness of what's happening gives you the ability to walk in wisdom while others stumble in confusion. Stay grounded, stay clean, stay aligned, because harvest seasons are also dangerous. The falling debris of collapsing structures can hit those standing too close. You must know when to step back, when to stay silent, when to move on. Not everyone can go with you into the next season. Some must stay in the field they sowed until the full weight of their choices meets them face to face. There's a weight in the atmosphere that can't be denied anymore. You can feel it in your bones. It's thick. It's real. It's the return of everything that's been in hiding. Every hidden motive, every silent betrayal, every mask people wore while planting seeds in secret. It's all rising now. The spiritual ground has been disturbed, and what was once buried can no longer stay underground. Chosen one, this is not a season to guess. This is a season to see clearly. Because clarity is no longer a luxury, it's a survival skill. People are reaping what they thought they buried. But nothing is ever truly buried. Every seed, no matter how deep, is known by the soil. And soil doesn't lie. Soil doesn't forget. It will bring forth whatever was placed in it. If it was deception, manipulation, pride, it's coming back as storms. If it was service, sacrifice, obedience, it's returning as overflow. That's the law now, not man's law, God's. You've been sensing it. That's why your spirit has felt restless, even in calm. It's not anxiety, it's revelation. You're watching spiritual laws activate in real time. The playing field is being leveled, and it's not being done by force. It's being done by harvest. No arguments, no courtroom, just truth revealing itself through what the ground is now producing. And if you've paid attention to energy, you can already tell who's about to rise and who's about to fall. This is why the quiet ones are starting to glow. Why the ones who served in silence are now being recognized. Why those who were overlooked are now the ones being elevated. Because they didn't just look clean, they planted clean. They sowed with humility. They moved without needing applause. And now the fruit of that energy is undeniable. This isn't favoritism. This is justice. Spiritual law is precise. It gives everyone back exactly what they gave. And those who faked it, those who built an identity out of illusion, they're being exposed, not by rumor, not by gossip, but by harvest. Because the ground can't lie. What you planted will show. What you thought you hid will grow. It's not about punishment. It's about proof. Everyone's life is becoming a mirror. The seeds they planted are now speaking louder than the image they tried to project. You're going to see it everywhere. Some will be confused. They'll say, "Why them?" or "Why me?" But you'll know. You'll recognize the pattern, the energy, the spiritual truth behind the moment. Because you've lived in alignment. You've felt the cost of sowing in integrity when everyone else chose shortcuts. And now, you're about to feel the reward. Not because you're perfect, but because you planted what others refused to. Let's be clear. This harvest is not only for the wicked, it's for everyone. And that includes you. The seeds you planted in tears, in faith, in total silence, they're coming up now. That patience, it's about to pay off. That decision to not retaliate, it's producing favor. That season where you were stripped but still trusted, it's turning into fruit. You're not just being spared, you're being rewarded. Not for being loud, but for being loyal. And it might come quickly, suddenly. It might shock even you, because harvest has its own clock. It's not interested in your comfort zone. It moves on divine time. You may wake up and everything's different. That's what happens when heaven speaks. That's what happens when the roots break through. Don't fear the sudden shifts. Don't doubt the rapid rise. You earned this through alignment, not through effort, through faith, not through force. But you must stay alert. The enemy loves to hijack harvest seasons. He'll try to attach leeches to your blessings. He'll try to sneak in distractions disguised as opportunities. He'll send old connections to test if you've truly healed. You must protect what's growing. not just from others, but from yourself, from your old habits, from your self-doubt, from the parts of you that still feel unworthy of overflow. Because harvest exposes everything, even your own readiness. This is why your peace matters now more than ever. Protect it. Guard it. If something pulls your spirit into confusion, it's not aligned. If someone drains your clarity, they're not meant to be in your field. Remember, you're not just managing blessings, you're managing seeds. Because every choice you make now is sowing your next season. And this cycle won't wait. It won't slow down for your comfort. The energy you carry today is building the harvest you'll meet tomorrow. Don't underestimate the ripple effect of your choices. Every time you speak life, you plant power. Every time you resist temptation, you plant integrity. Every time you bless instead of curse, you plant elevation. And that fruit might not show immediately, but it will show. Because nothing planted in faith dies. It may lie dormant, but it's alive. And when the time is right, the universe will present it back to you with interest. This is not the season to fear what's rising. It's the season to recognize it, to see the pattern, to read the signs. You've already outgrown the places where sin once felt normal. You've evolved beyond cycles that others are still trapped in. That's not arrogance. It's growth. It's awareness. You see clearly now. And once you see clearly, you're responsible for your gaze, for your focus, for where you place your energy. Not everyone will understand what you're talking about. They'll think you're overreacting. They'll call it karma. But you know better. You know this is harvest. This is divine law. This is what happens when heaven calls for the balance. And you're standing on the side of those who planted with tears and now will reap with joy. So don't dim your light out of false humility. Don't deny your blessing because others don't understand the cost. You paid for this in silence. You sowed for this with obedience. And now, as the fruit rises from the ground, you don't have to explain it. You are the explanation. Your life will speak. Your peace will speak. Your alignment will speak. Because when God brings a harvest, it cannot be debated. The air feels different now, doesn't it? Heavier, but not in a burdensome way, in a revealing way. There's a sense that something is being exposed not just out in the world, but also within you. Your spirit is remembering how sacred every moment is, how precise every action was. You're no longer operating unconsciously, because now you understand nothing was ever wasted. Not the pain, not the silence, not the decisions you made when no one else was watching. God saw it all. And the field? The field has been keeping track. There are people right now trying to understand why their lives are spiraling, why relationships are crumbling, why their plans are dissolving. But the truth is simple. What they sowed is returning. This isn't punishment. This is principle. The harvest doesn't care how charming you are. It doesn't care how successful you look. It only cares what you planted. That's why this season is confusing to so many, because it's exposing what they never wanted to face. But not you. You're not confused. You're confirmed. You knew this would come. Your spirit felt it before it arrived. You saw the signs, the sudden endings, the slow unravelings, the undeniable shifts in energy. You felt the clearing begin long before others did. And now you're standing in a place of clarity, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. The weeds are being removed. The false fruit is falling off. And what remains? is real. Chosen one, this is why you had to stay true in seasons when no one clapped. This is why you had to walk alone when the crowd didn't understand you. Because harvest does not happen in crowds. It happens in consecrated places, in quiet obedience, in the secret decisions. While others laughed, you listened. While others took shortcuts, you stayed grounded. While others hid behind charm, you stood in character. And now, the difference is undeniable. Don't be surprised if you're feeling lighter. That's what happens when the spiritual atmosphere is being swept clean. The weight you carried wasn't yours. It belonged to the people and systems that used you. The guilt you felt wasn't conviction. It was manipulation. And now that the seeds of clarity have fully broken through, the field is clearing itself. That's why old conversations suddenly don't interest you. Why you can't pretend anymore. Why you feel more sensitive to everything that's out of alignment. That's the harvest talking. That's the new energy pushing through. You are not the same. And because of that, your field is not the same. The seeds that others threw in anger have no place in your garden anymore. The weeds they planted, with gossip, with judgment, with jealousy, they're being uprooted. And this time, you're not replanting them. You're letting the ground breathe, letting it be sacred again. Because what's coming next in your life requires clean soil. Let's be honest, this isn't just about others. This is also about you. There are seeds you planted that weren't perfect. You've made decisions that came from pain, not purpose. And God saw those too. But instead of allowing you to reap destruction, He stepped in. He brought correction. He invited you to see the roots. And because you responded in humility, because you chose healing instead of hiding, your field is now bearing different fruit. That's the difference between those who break and those who bend. Those who break under the pressure of exposure are the ones who refuse to change. But those who bend, those who surrender, they're the ones who harvest growth, not because they were perfect, but because they repented, because they got honest, because they let God uproot the old and replant something pure. And now it's not about punishment, it's about promise. That's what this season is for you. A season of reward, of recompense, of restoration, but also of responsibility. Because when you've been handed a clean field, your job is not to decorate it. Your job is to steward it, to fill it with what feeds you, to guard it, to plant what will bless not just you, but generations to come. You are being trusted with land, spiritually and literally. And land doesn't just need vision, it needs intention. Every decision you make now is a seed for your next level. How you speak, what you tolerate, who you keep close. It's all soil management. And this time, you don't have the luxury of laziness, because the fruit that grows from here won't just feed you, it will position you. You've entered a space where your integrity is your influence, your energy is your reputation. You don't need to scream for validation anymore. The fruit will speak. The harvest will announce what you planted, and no one will be able to deny it, not even those who tried to bury your name. Because when God decides to bring fruit, even your enemies have to watch you eat. But don't get lost in the glow. Don't get so high on the favor that you forget the field. The field still needs tending. The harvest still needs protecting. And the seeds still need sowing. This is not the end. It's a new beginning, a new responsibility, a new opportunity to plant even more intentionally than you ever have before. Because now you know what the harvest looks like. You've seen what happens when seeds grow. Chosen one, you've been elevated. But don't become what you once escaped. Don't plant pride where humility once lived. Don't sow control where freedom once bloomed. Stay light. Stay open. Stay grounded. Because this harvest was never just about you. It was about proof. Proof that the laws of God are real. That the seeds don't lie. That time always tells the truth. And now, you are walking in that truth. You are the evidence of what happens when someone chooses integrity over ego, peace over performance, trust over manipulation. You are the result of a sacred process, one that took longer than you expected, but was right on time. Because the harvest does not respond to hurry. It responds to honor. There's a sacred order to all things, one that doesn't bend to man's timing, manipulation, or opinion. And in this moment, chosen one, you are walking in that order. You're seeing the rhythm of the spiritual world in motion. The rhythm that says nothing goes unseen, nothing goes unanswered, not the pain, not the patience, not the betrayal, and not the obedience. Everything that was sown is now showing, and it's happening in real time. You may have wondered for years why it took so long, why people who did wrong seemed to thrive while you struggled in silence, but now you see it clearly. It wasn't that they were winning. It was that the soil was still silent. That silence wasn't approval. It was delay. Because harvest never comes when we want it. It comes when the ground is ready to break open. And now that it has, the time of exposure has begun, not through judgment, but through manifestation. That's the real language of the spiritual world. Manifestation. What's inside becomes visible. What's buried becomes bloom. That's why you must stay aware right now. Because many things are about to look different. Some people will rise, others will fall. Some systems will shake, others will be established. This is the nature of harvest. Division, separation, sorting. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. You've been hidden for a reason. The reason wasn't rejection, it was preservation. Because the spiritual realm couldn't let your fruit grow beside weeds. The weeds had to be exposed first. The deception had to die off. The false alliances had to fall. And now that they have, you're being released. Not pushed, but revealed. What's been in you all along is now being seen. Not because you changed, but because the field around you finally did. This is why certain opportunities are now showing up. They weren't late. They were waiting for your field to clear, waiting for the weeds to be pulled, waiting for your inner ground to match your outer favor. Because when God sends harvest, He doesn't send it to chaos. He sends it to order. And your life is now in divine order. Spirit, mind, body, aligned. That's why it's all beginning to flow. But with every wave of divine clarity comes a test. Will you forget who you were before the harvest arrived? Will you remember the silence, the darkness, the season when you sowed without applause? Because if you forget, pride will enter. And where pride enters, distortion follows. But chosen one, you were built for more than just a moment of reward. You were built to carry legacy, to hold fruit that doesn't just feed your table, but blesses entire communities. And legacy can't be carried by the ungrateful. That's why you're being reminded now. This harvest is holy, not a handout, not a coincidence, but a holy return. a divine echo of what you whispered in your lowest moments, when you had nothing but faith, when your hands were empty, but your soul was full of obedience. This is the echo of that energy. There will be people who try to reconnect now, people who once overlooked you, now suddenly drawn to the light you carry. Be careful. Not everything returning is meant to be received. Some are drawn to your fruit, not your frequency. They don't love the real you, they love the result. And if you're not careful, they will come in and corrupt the field you just cleaned. You must be discerning. You must ask, does this person feed my spirit, or just want to feed off my harvest? You don't owe access to everyone who once ignored your value. Your light is not for discount. Your energy is not for rent. You were not called to be everything to everyone. You were called to be exactly what heaven designed you to be. That's it. And the moment you get distracted by trying to carry everyone, you begin to carry weight that God never gave you. That's when blessings feel heavy instead of holy. This is why wisdom must accompany harvest, because fruit attracts attention. Attention attracts deception, and deception can rot what was once ripe. You must be vigilant. You must protect the clarity you prayed for, not with fear, but with boundaries, with stillness, with sacred standards. You're not being cold, you are being covered. And covered people walk differently. You are now a living mirror. People are going to see their own reflection when they're around you. For some, it will inspire. For others, it will offend. You are not responsible for how others react to your harvest. You are responsible only for what you do with it. Your job is not to hide your fruit. Your job is to hold it with humility and share it with discernment. The harvest isn't just a result, it's a responsibility, a test, a signpost, and above all, a reminder that God remembers. He remembers every injustice, every betrayal, every quiet act of love, every time you chose what was right when it would have been easier to give in. And now, all of it is returning, not just as reward, but as evidence. Evidence that spiritual laws are unshakable. Evidence that obedience was always enough. So, chosen one, walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Your life is not in a waiting room anymore. It's in a birthing room. What's been forming in the unseen is now becoming unavoidable. You are not emerging because of luck. You are emerging because the field recognizes its farmer. And now, it's time to reap. But even in reaping, stay aware. Because what you do now becomes the next seed. Every word, every thought, every intention. This isn't the end of the process. It's the continuation. Because the harvest is never just about now. It's about next. And your next is being written today. You've been trusted with visibility, with clarity, with influence, and now with increase. And as the fruit rises, let your character rise even higher, because that's the only way to sustain what's coming. That's how you move from temporary blessing to permanent breakthrough. Chosen one, you're beginning to understand why the wait was necessary, why certain doors stayed closed, why certain people had to leave. It wasn't rejection, it was realignment. The field was being prepared not just for growth, but for purity. And God knew what you didn't, that some people would have contaminated the soil. Some situations would have poisoned the roots. The harvest couldn't come until the ground was protected. You weren't just being delayed, you were being defended. While others looked at your life and assumed you were forgotten, heaven was actually fencing you in, shielding your energy, guarding your process. Because when God sends the harvest, it can't land in unstable hands. It must fall on someone who understands the weight of what they're about to carry. And now, after all that you've endured, that someone is you. That's why your spirit is heavier than it used to be, not with sadness, but with purpose. You can't engage the way you used to. You can't entertain nonsense. You can't pour into everyone anymore. It's not because you're cold. It's because your assignment requires focus. The fruit you carry is sacred now. It's tied to destinies, not just desires. You're not just harvesting for yourself. You're harvesting for your bloodline, for those coming behind you, for generations that will never know your name but will live off your obedience. So don't downplay what's happening. This is bigger than a promotion, bigger than money, bigger than influence. This is spiritual elevation. And elevation requires separation. You will feel the divide between what was and what is. You'll feel the discomfort of leaving behind old patterns, old relationships, old expectations. It may hurt, but it's necessary. Because the version of you who planted is not the version who's called to harvest. That version had to fight to be seen. This version is called to stand. That version needed validation. This version walks in confirmation. You've outgrown the masks, the coping mechanisms, the cycles, and the harvest is the proof. The blessing isn't the end goal, it's the byproduct of who you've become. And now you're not chasing alignment, you are the alignment.